Hey there! In today's video, I'm going to be rescaping this 45U behind me, and as you can see, some of the rescape is already done. That's just because I didn't want to bore you with the slow details of pulling out all the plants in the hardscape. There's a few things I need to do before I begin the actual rescape process, and that's to take out the leftover aqua soil and also pull out the 4 Red Galaxy Pinto shrimp that I have in here as well. Once I get that done, I'll empty out a lot of the water and we'll get to the rescape process. Let's get started. So to remove soil from an aquarium like this, I typically like to grab just an old Starbucks cup and a bucket. And although this is time consuming and tedious, this is really just the best way that I know of to get large amounts of aqua soil out. You can try siphoning it out, but typically I like to just use a cup because otherwise the siphon can sometimes get clogged. I wanted to make sure I drained the water level all the way down to the bottom here so I could really see what I was doing when putting the hardscape in. For the hardscape of this build, I'll be using Wolfstone. This is only my second time using it, so I'm really excited to see how it turns out. After about an hour or so of hardscaping, this was what I came up with. Now, the plants that I'll be adding to the back of the aquarium, they aren't super tall growing plants, so I wanted to add some old used aqua soil into the back to really build up that height. As always, to hold the hardscape together, I'm using the liquid super glue paper towel method. I find this is just the best way to keep your hardscape secure and keep it from moving around. Once the hardscape was done, it was time to fill the tank up and get the filter running so that it didn't kill any of that beneficial bacteria in the filter media. Okay, so the hardscape is now complete. I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. It doesn't look like it's completely finished yet, but that's because I have a vision of how I want to plant this tank, and the plants will really complete the look. But I'm really excited about this hardscape. Now, all that's left, I've got a slight layer of detritus and some aqua soil pebbles that have come down through the rocks that I need to siphon out. But once I siphon those things out, I'll be adding a layer of cosmetic sand in the front right here. Once that's done, it's time to plant. So I'm gonna go grab my siphon, I'm gonna siphon this thing out, add the sand, and get to planting. Let's go. Once the foreground was all cleaned up, it was time to add the sand, and I decided to use the UNS Contra Sand Mojave. This is one of my favorite Contra Sands that UNS makes, and I just think it'll look really good in this tank. Okay, so the two main plants that are going to be in this tank are two types of crypts. I've got Crypt Balenci, and then crypt Bacchetti. Both these crypts I've never used before, and they're super lush, thick looking tissue culture cups. So I'm gonna open them up, get them prepared, and then we'll get to planting. So the first tissue culture cup, this is the Balenciae. And this looks, right, Balenciae? Yeah. This looks incredible. Let's peel this up. That is a huge amount of plants. The crypts are literally like overflowing in this tissue culture cup. Just absolutely stunning. Next up, I have the crypt Bacchetti. And again, massive tissue culture cup. Look at that, just filled to the brim in this tissue culture cup. The leaves are just overflowing. Absolutely beautiful. Huge shout out to Boost Plant for supplying these plants. I'm gonna get these separated and then I'm going to get to planting. So let's go. All right, so it's been about 5 weeks since I set this tank up, and as you can see, things did not go as planned. This tank is an absolute disaster. It looks terrible. All the plants melted, and on top of the plants, I just didn't like the look of it anymore. This was nowhere near what I hoped this tank would look like by now, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. So yeah, this tank looks nothing like I had hoped. I would technically classify this, I would tell people that this was a failed aquascape. So it did not work out. Just from the very beginning, nothing seemed to work. So since I see this tank every day, all day, because it's in my living room, it's just an eyesore. And every time I see it, it just drives me nuts. And so I think what I'm gonna do, and after consulting with my wife, since she lives in this space as well, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rescape it. I think I wanna go with something with more color. I've noticed that my gallery is starting to just look really green and there's not a lot of color going on. So I wanna do something that showcases a lot of color. So that's gonna be a lot of stem plants and stuff. And I have a really good idea of what I wanna do. That will be in next week's video though, because we're already at a pretty lengthy video and unfortunately I don't have anything good to show you. So you know, sometimes honestly you just have to kind of cut your losses, and ultimately if the tank isn't making you happy, then don't keep it. This tank is not making me happy. Honestly, I just kind of wish it wasn't here. So with that being said, I'm gonna rescape it. That'll be next week's video. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you go ahead and do so. And I think that's the end of this video. You know, sometimes things just don't work out as planned. And honestly, I don't really know what went wrong with this tank, but just no matter how hard I tried, I could not get it to be the way I wanted it. And I think, you know, ultimately it's not bringing me joy. And if your tank's not bringing you joy, then there's no need to have it. So I'm gonna rescape it. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry it was a letdown at the end, but I can't wait to show you what it looks like after the rescape next week. On that note, I'll let you go, and I'll see you in the next one.